You guys remember when the cameras loved showing Somalis for Trump? The hijabs in red, white, and blue, the speeches about being good immigrants, the proud claims of being different from foundational Black Americans, the fantasy that if you cheered hard enough for the empire would adopt you.
Just you?
Yeah, so I wonder what happened, because now it seems as though they're singing a different tune.
As Minnesotans, we are greater than what? Fear. We are greater than?
Sunday, people from all different backgrounds packed into Carmel Mall in Minneapolis to show support for Somali Minnesotans through a potluck.
We cannot think of anything more American, more Minnesotan than a potluck.
Our job as a community is to stay as neighbors, to stay united, to love this state.
The event is in response to President Trump's announcement that he's terminating temporary protected status, or TPS, for Somalis in Minnesota. On Truth Social, the president said, quote, Minnesota under Governor Walz is a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. He went on to say, without providing proof, that Somali gangs were terrorizing the state. In response, Majority Whip Tom Emmer said, thank you, Mr. President.
I am deeply disappointed by the president's attack on our community.
Well, there's a lot of people disappointed. Because the same political machine that some of them embrace, the same one they would protect them from American Black problems, is now sharpening the very blade that's pointing at them. This isn't just about Somalis. This is about how the empire uses one Black group as a buffer against another, then discards everybody when it's done.
I immediately regret this decision.
So this evening, we're going to talk about the illusions of whiteness adjacent for Somaliness, and how Trumpism never differentiate between good refugee and illegal alien, and why FBA's warned about this years ago, and why delineation matters when crime, corruption, and even chaos is coming from specific corners of the Black immigrant class, while the headlines still just say Black.
I don't like that.
For decades, a piece of the Somali diaspora, not all, but loud enough, built an identity here around being different from us. And the script went something like, we are Muslim, we're not Black, we came here legally, we work harder, we don't complain, we don't do what Black Americans do.
Huh? What?
It's the same script we hear from Caribbean tethers, African tethers, Latino tethers, but with East African seasoning. And meanwhile, America was running its own script. These are the useful refugees, cheap labor, a way to say we care about Muslims while we bomb their homelands.
We all know that now.
Easy. See, this is a tool to show diversity while undermining FBA politically. They were welcome as long as they stayed in a narrow role. If they were quiet, grateful, non-political, and positioned themselves an example of white conservatives could brag about. See, these Somalis came with nothing and made it. Why can't Black Americans do the same?
That goal was perfect.
But behind the PR was a cold reality. America didn't see them as white. America didn't see them as permanent. America saw them as conditional.
That is so gross.
The welcome mat was really a lease, and again, it was rented, but it was paid in silence. And the rent would be paid in silence about FBA struggle and loyal to the very focus, sharpening the knife. So let's make this very plain.
Here we go again.
Whiteness never offered Somalis a seat at the table. It gave them a folding chair in the hallway, and some thought that the chair was citizenship. We've seen this movie before. Latinos floated as hardworking, family value voters until mass deportation. Caribbean immigrants sold as model Black success stories until scandal hits and suddenly they're just Black criminals. East African dangled as a loyal conservative wedge against FBAs until the same law and order machine looks their way. See, Somalis were told, you're not like Black Americans. You're conservative, you're religious, you're business minded, you're family oriented. Then Trump came in and said the quiet part out loud. Let's separate the vibes from the policy, should we not? The fantasy was Trump respects strong men, religious values, business owners, traditional families. Somalis fit that. He'll like us. That's the reality, is it not? Because his agenda didn't distinguish between refugees, asylum seekers, TBS holders, green card holders, naturalized citizens, or US born kids of Somali immigrants. To him, It was very, very simple. Somali equal Muslim, Muslim equal security threat equal deportation risk. See, we saw the Muslim ban putting Somalia right on the ban list, ICE removal orders from Somali spiking, internal talk about review Somali naturalization cases, Somali detainees shackled on flights, stuck in limbo, surveillance locked in on Somali mosques and youth programs within their neighborhoods in Minnesota mostly. Some while we were waving MAGA flags, thinking they'll find a shortcut into Americanness. And the system was quietly building a deportation machine with their name pre-printed on the label. Somalis for Trump? Trump was never for Somalis. Foundational Black Americans tried to tell everybody, not just Somalis, we've been the crash test dummies for American policy for half of a millennia. And if a policy is coming, it hits FBA first. If a policy is extreme, we feel the tremor before anyone else. See, when we said this man does not see you as family, he doesn't. This man isn't building a infrastructure to deport whole categories of people. This man will not stop at the border. He will reach into citizenship paperwork if it benefits him politically. We weren't hating. We were reading the pattern like we always have. But Somalis for Trump, again, not all, responding something like, those Black Americans just complain all the time. They don't like immigrants. We follow the law. We're not like them. We work hard. We don't get in trouble. And then the headlines started to change. Somali communities targeting ICE sweep, Somali business owners under federal investigation, Somali naturalized citizens face enhanced reviews, Somali youth program labeled counter extremism sites. Now, suddenly, the same people who said we were exaggerating are learning. You can't law abide your way out of a system that wrote the laws to remove you. We weren't your enemy. We're not your enemy. We were your early warning system. See, Trump's movement isn't just about chants and rallies. It's about infrastructure, think tanks, white nationalist policy intellectuals, Heritage Foundation manuals, Project 2025 blueprints. These folks have been designing a machine, not a moment. That machine says, reevaluate refugees from high-risk Muslim nations. Somali, right there in ink. Reopen cases for technicalities, no matter how long you've been here. But denaturalization task force should strip citizenship where they can find any paperwork crack. Restore and expand Muslim bans. Empower ICE to use expedient removal far from the border. Target specific clusters, neighborhoods like the Somali enclaves in Minnesota, Columbia, Seattle, San Diego, and others. The empire doesn't just move bodies, it moves definitions. So today, your refugee status story, tomorrow your security risk, because a moment that redefined you. You can't paperwork your way into whiteness. Whiteness is a status you earn.
Yes, definitely.
It's a fortress that merely uses you as a buffer until it's done. Now we have to talk about the part that really stings, because no other than the president that you voted for has revoked your temporary protection status, as it should have been temporary. So when we look at this, we have to understand that a lot of Black immigrants, not just Somalis, come over here with imported anti-Blackness baked in their colonial caste system and tribal hierarchies and colorism that's built inside of the colonized mind of a lot of these Black countries that were colonized by the Europeans. And centuries of propaganda about those Black Americans. For some, it showed us as we are not like foundational Black Americans. We don't have their crime problems. We value family more. We are more religious. We're more disciplined and more respectful. That messaging got weaponized by white conservatives. See, even these Black immigrants say that Black Americans are lazy. Even these refugees criticize the Black lives that have been killed unarmed by some of the race soldiers with badges. Not all police, but enough. They talk about reparations and FBA lineage talk. You have your Somalians, your Caribbeans, Nigerians, all used as props in the same skit. But then what happens, ladies and gentlemen? What happens, family? The same white system that uses their commentary against us quietly builds cases and policies and legislations and operations against them. You stand next to whiteness long enough, and one day you'll realize you're not next to it. You're in front of its gun. This is where delineation comes in. When crime happens, when scams break, when corruption pops off, when foreign political schemes collide with American institutions. The media doesn't say Somali American fraud, Haitian American corruption, non-FBA immigrant scam ring. The lower third just says black. And guess who ends up wearing that jacket? We do. Foundational Black Americans do. The same group that fought to open the doors that your families walked through. And we saw it. We saw it with Caribbean officials and reps getting hit with federal cases and suddenly becoming just black politicians. When it's time to take the L, African and Caribbean scam rings being reported as black fraud enterprises. That is why we need to make this separation and let alone delineation. East African corruption networks getting foiled into black political dysfunction. So yes, we are drawing hard lines now.
You seen one, you seen them all.
If a win is Haitian, hold that win as a Haitian. If a loss is Somali, hold that L as Somali. Don't dissolve into vague blackness only when the block gets hot, because for decades, foundational Black Americans have been forced to eat everybody else's dirt while they hold their own flags high. Here's where we stand as foundational Black Americans, if anybody did not know already. We're not here to dance on anybody's fear. We're not clapping for deportation vans if you're legal. We're not cheering for families being written apart. What we are saying is this. We have the longest resume in surviving this empire. We forced the end of chattel slavery. We secured the 14th Amendment that underpins everyone's birthright and due process. We pushed the Civil Rights Act and Voter Rights Act into existence. Our fight built the legal and moral frameworks later used by immigrants today, whether it be Muslims, Latinos, East Africans, everybody, to defend themselves. While some stood next to whiteness, pointing finger at us, our ancestors were the ones fighting for the system that they now have them in their sights. So when we warn you guys, it's not just jealousy, it's experience talking. When we delineate, it's not divisiveness, it's self-defense. Somalis for Trump was never a coalition. It was a costume. It was a moment, a misunderstanding of power, because power in America has never come from proximity. It comes from pressure, not from cosplay. And most indeed, it comes from clarity. This is where we cut through the cosplay. We drag the truth into light, and we remind America and the diaspora of one simple fact. The empire will use anybody and everybody against each other to keep foundational Black Americans in check. But once people start waking up, once the buffer class realized they were never being adopted, only rented. Yeah. You guys are only being adopted. Or maybe yet you're just being rented because they never adopted you. This is when the real fear hits the system. See, an awakened people reading the game, delineating the damage, and refusing to carry anybody else's sins on our backs. That's what foundational Black Americans are today. So my family, stay sharp, stay grounded, and stay on code. Because as all these different immigrant groups who have been naturalized, whether they're legal or illegal, voted and support Donald Trump. And now it seems that a lot of these immigrant groups are turning their back on the same man they supported for their proximity to whiteness, which again, it was never the proximity. You guys were just rented.
What?